Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, both of you, for appearing again. Let me add my congratulations and just tell you I agree with all the accolades you've received today, Secretary Wilson, and I don't think any of them are even a little bit exaggerated, but thank you for your service. And to both of you, thank you for your candor. You have spoken with great clarity, and particularly in differentiating the Air Force we need from the Air Force that we can afford. And more importantly, thank you for your candor in answering the what-if questions, the what if the worst, what if we don't get our jobs done as it relates to appropriations. So we need that clarity. Our constituents need to hear that clarity, and I thank you for that. I'm tempted, of course, to ask about plans to modernize two very important aircraft to me, the Global Hawk in Grand Forks and the B-52s. I think we've talked a lot about that. But before we get to that, I've not heard a lot today about, and I'm very intrigued with and interested in Space Force. And I like the message that is coming out. I think you have $72 million in this budget for the headquarters. But I would ask each of you to maybe elaborate a bit, first of all, on the importance of it as we look at scarcity of resources, and we're talking about a sixth branch. There are lots of people with lots of opinions, and yet this domain seems, well, I think it seems critically important, and I haven't heard anybody, any of the combatant commanders or anybody else, whether related to Space Force or not, say that it's not a good idea. But I just would open the floor to let you explain to us one more time why it's so important, maybe starting with the Secretary.
You know, Senator, we are the best in the world at space, and our adversaries know it. And they are seeking to develop the capability to deny us the use of space in crisis or in war. And in private conversations, as we've received briefings and so on from combatant commanders, not from the Air Force, but from combatant commanders and other services, they understand the importance of space as an enabling capability for everything they're trying to do. We have made significant changes in programs based on threat analysis and strategy in fiscal year 19, which this committee and others in the Congress supported. And we proposed in FY20 another boost, a 17% increase in our space portfolio in the FY20 budget. So we're making the financial investments. We are also buying those capabilities faster and smarter. And in fact, in the space realm, we set ourselves a goal 10 months ago. And in some ways it was a gimmick, but it got people focused. We wanted to strip 100 years out of Air Force procurement in 12 months. So look at every program, see if we could optimize these, and we're not skimping on any requirements. We're going to buy a tailored suit rather than a suit off the rack. We're currently at 78.5 years taken out of Air Force procurement programs. Of that, 21 came from space alone. So we are moving forward to buy things in space faster and smarter. Our policy is to maintain American dominance in space, so that space capabilities are available to the joint force and so that we deter any attack on the United States or our allies. So the organizational change that was put forward in parallel with this budget is actually, it's a change that elevates, that enhances the influence of space and leaders in the Pentagon. And that's in it for the long haul. So I think one of the things that, taken all together, the combatant command, which is being stood up, plus the increases in spending that all of you have supported, and the shift to a strategy in the programs to support it for a contested domain will keep us dominant in space, and that is our job. Chief?
Thanks, ma'am. Yeah, I look at it from a warfighter perspective, and having been the Space Coordinating Authority and component lead for Central Command deployed for 2 years, I've employed space capabilities against an enemy. And so I look at it from a warfighting perspective. And I see, given the situation we're in, and obviously align with the Secretary's statement, the problem statement, that we are the best in the world. We got to do three things simultaneously. First, we have to defend what we have, because it's going to be there for a while, and we all rely on it. From the blue dot on our phone to the indications and warnings of missile launch. I mean, we rely on space capability, so we have to defend what we have. But it's not good enough to just step in the ring and defend and take punches. At some point, you got to be able to punch back. And our adversaries need to know that we can punch back, and it needs to be part of their calculus. So we have to develop offensive capabilities. And the third piece we have to do is develop a force that can fight and win, because this transition from an uncontested domain to a contested domain requires that force to be developed for the future. So I believe that as we were in a robust debate about how to get after the president's guidance, we were debating between a separate service, separate department, separate secretary, separate chief, to a MedCorps, JAG-Corps. Where we landed, which is a separate service within the Department of the Air Force, it to me is the most recognizable model from a business of war fighting. Of all the things that we're doing going forward, I would offer the most important act that I would ask this committee to take on this year is to stand up U.S. Space Command with a commander, because in the business of joint war fighting, that aligns how this entire department does business going forward.
Well said. Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.